to Rock and Rollers. My name is Ryan World Movies, and back here with another movie review this week. This time for part 1 of the biggest Mission Impossible film to date that's being split into 2 parts, Dead Reckoning. Where the IMF team, led by Ethan Hunt, are in a race against time to stop the access of a new rogue AI threat known as simply as the Entity from going into the wrong hands. It was co-written and directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who has directed some of the previous Mission Impossible films, co-written by Erik Jendresen. So right off the bat, I knew I was gonna be in line for this movie, especially because of the fact that this is actually, and I'm not making this up, my very first Mission Impossible film, seeing it in a theater, and yeah, just hold on to the angry comments, it gets worse. But also, this time around, I finally had the chance, after probably years of waiting at this point, because there were so many movies that came, that I was more interested in, more intrigued in seeing, putting priority first, that I finally got the chance to see, the previous Mission Impossible films for the very first time ever. And yes, I'm admitting this now. So yes, I watched the 4th, 5th, and 6th ones for the very first time a couple weeks ago. But I did watch the 1st and 2nd and 3rd one. I think it was just before the pandemic or a bit after the pandemic. So yeah, it was for the 4th and 5th and 6th one, yeah, it was my very first time watching. So yeah, now you can go ahead and get mad at me now.
How dare you?
But it was also, my chance to, spend some fun family time with, my family, because it was also their first time watching some of the Mission Impossible films. I mean, they watched some previously, but not some of them. Some of them, watched it for the first time as well, just like me. So it got us even more excited for this film, and, all culminated in us going into the movie theater together to watch Dead Reckoning Part 1. And let me just say, despite only being part 1 of a 2-part cinematic story, let me tell ya, it did not fail to disappoint whatsoever. In fact, it actually turned out better than I anticipated. First off, on the whole, it's just a great sequel and an entry to the Mission Impossible franchise that, just works on its own. You can feel that it stands on its own. It's able to work on its own, without having to watch some of the previous Mission Impossible films, or it doesn't end on such a, unsatisfying cliffhanger as a part 1 story. You can clearly look at it on its own, and I appreciate those kinds of, 2-part stories, or where there's split into 2 parts, and you can look at each film on its own. But secondly, from an action standpoint of view, this is really something to be seen. I feel like the action keeps getting bigger and better as the Mission Impossible films go on. Like nowadays, since the 2010s, the action scenes in these Mission Impossible films feel so realistic, have gotten even more realistic than they have ever been before, that they contain some of the best action choreographed sequences that I've ever seen in cinema, ever. Now this may sound laughable when, the first few Mission Impossible movies came out, but now it can actually be taken seriously. But we also get probably what is arguably the biggest stunt, if not probably ever been performed in the history of all Mission Impossible movies and of Tom Cruise's career to date. I think if you've watched any of the trailers, you probably know what it is, but even if you didn't, you'll know when you see it. And believe me, it is so much all the more worth it watching the real thing on the big screen in the cinema theater. But I think the biggest highlight for me, personally, in my opinion, for this movie, is the way that this film is able to build up that level, that high intensity level of suspense, tension, and thrill that just makes you grab onto the edge of your seat. Yeah, I don't know how they did it, but you really do feel the intensity and suspense of each scene. I also really like the music in this movie. I think it's probably one of the best music compositions and tracks I've ever heard in a Mission Impossible movie. And I think one of the reasons why these Mission Impossible movies have gotten better and better as the years and films go by is the acting and the chemistry between the cast. I really do love, you really do see and feel the chemistry between the cast, and, the acting is so well done as well. This is one of the reasons why these Mission Impossible films keep getting better, and yeah, you can clearly see it. Speaking of new actors in the Mission Impossible franchise, newcomer Hayley Atwell, who is the newest character to join the franchise. Her character's name is Grace, who's basically a thief that runs into Ethan, that's sort of just dragged into all of this. Well, at least until it is actually revealed that she was hired by Vanessa, who was played by Vanessa Kirby. And the events of this film greatly impact her, giving her a well-developed character arc. but she is actually very similar to Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Helena Shaw character from Indiana Jones, the latest Indiana Jones film, Dial of Destiny. But except I think Grace here is so much better, so much treated well, treated much more well than, you know, Helena Shaw in that Indiana Jones movie, where, you know, unlike Helena Shaw, Grace is actually given a fully fledged character arc that will continue on in part 2, and I really cannot wait to see how that goes. Esai Morales as well, he can prove that he can, you know, yeah, that guy can act, dude. You know, he literally brings on the intensity and the suspense and the massive threat that he is in this movie. And, you know, I'm really starting to see his, you know, capacity and potential as an actor, you know, up there on the big screen, because the only other actor credit I've seen him in is in Season 2 of Titans, where he was Deathstroke, aka Slade Wilson. And I think here, with Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Part 2, yes, he survived in this film. It's not just a one-off villain, he's gonna be in the next part, but yeah, he can really demonstrate he has the acting chops. The plot twists in this movie are also really well done, in my personal opinion. And yes, there are plot twists in this movie as well, in this Mission Impossible movie, that are done pretty well without making it super obvious or super nonsensical. And the biggest plot twist of this movie is that it involves one of the heads of the National Intelligence that you see early in the film. I think his name is Delinger. Yeah, as revealed in the third act train sequence of the movie, where he's confronting Esai Morales' character Gabriel about it, and also Pom Klementieff's character Paris is also there too, and what he knows about this AI entity. And as per the synopsis, the story goes that this AI, known as the Entity, has been created by God knows who yet. Yeah, I just really love the way how they managed to implement the concept of AI in this spy thriller, spy action, Mission Impossible movie, you know, without making it cheesy. But, you know, it actually, in of itself, actually manages to convey this huge sense of fear, given how powerful this entity AI actually is in the movie. And that right there, I think, is probably the most intriguing part of this movie for me. I mean, not only is it because that they haven't covered the concept of AI yet in this Mission Impossible franchise, but this topic couldn't have come at a more prevalent time, especially nowadays in this current modern era, the times of today. You know, with the rise of AI technology, this is a subject that's been coming up, you know, a lot, you know, ever since the beginning of this year. You know, especially with ChatGPT. I can't even speak today. ChatGPT, yeah, it's becoming a huge deal around the world. You know, conversations are constantly going about it, and as far as, you know, conversations regarding the future of the world, regarding AI too. Okay, now we get into the bigger spoiler territory. You know, I've revealed some minor spoilers in this video so far, but this is where it gets very major spoilers. So if you haven't watched the movie and you want to know what happens first, then go away from this video, and after you watch it, come back here once you have, because I'm about to drop a huge bombshell, and that is that at the end of the second act, drumroll please, Rebecca Ferguson's character, Ilsa Faust, unfortunately gets killed off in this movie. No! And this is something that heavily pissed me off. It infuriated me, you know, coming out of this movie. You know, I was expecting some plot twist that, oh, she's alive at the end, but no. You know, after her death, I'm putting it quote-unquote because, you know, but yeah, that part just seriously pissed me off. I can't believe they would kill her off. Like, why? Like, what did... Whoever decided this, we need to get talking. Like, whoever decided this, who the hell are you?
Oh, you're gonna pay for this! You're gonna pay for this! No! I'm the best one on the team and you know it! No! Tell your wife I'm sorry! Just kidding, I'm not!
She is seriously one of the best characters of the entire Mission Impossible franchise ever since being introduced in Rogue Nation, the 5th one. You know, she's been such a great addition, especially with her chemistry with Tom Cruise's Ethan Hunt. You know, they perfectly complement each other. She's kind of like a female Ethan Hunt. But yeah, up to this point, I heavily enjoyed her character, like, and it's certainly better than a lot of, you know, other female characters, especially in superhero films to date. You know, it's better. It's compared to those ones. Ilsa Foss is definitely miles better. I mean, I'm not gonna waste time in listing some of the bad examples, but yeah, hopefully you understand my point. So yeah, it just seems weird to me that Hollywood seems okay with killing off the actual goodly, well-written and well-developed female movie characters, and instead keeping the ones that, you know, we essentially, how do I put it, not as written well or not as relatable.
When I put this ring on my finger, it wasn't just about you or me anymore. It was about us. You are not the Flash, Barry. We are.
And yeah, it really sucks to see her killed off. Or did she? I guess we'll have to see in part 2. I don't know if she is going to be in part 2, but we'll see how it goes. Maybe in a flashback, but I don't know. Also, I will say with Pom Klementieff's character, Paris, her character only has like 10 lines of dialogue, and you know, it's honestly kind of sad that I really wanted to see more of her character, but now that she did survive in part 1, hopefully she'll have a bigger role in part 2. So we'll see how that goes. I think the only realistic criticism for me for this movie is that I find it's a bit too long, in that I definitely feel that some parts could have been cut out, especially, you know, the final moments of the train sequence in the 3rd act definitely could have been cut down for time. But yeah, other than that, I think this movie is really, really good, absolutely perfect, except, you know, it could have been cut for time. And I think this is a nitpicky thing, but when Gabriel was revealed to be from Ethan's past and turns out to be, you know, probably his biggest enemy to date, did I miss him from a previous Mission Impossible movie? I mean, I don't remember seeing him or recognizing him from any other Mission Impossible movie. Like maybe Mission Impossible 2? I don't know. Did we actually see his flashbacks in one of the actual Mission Impossible movies? I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, hard to believe that we've gone from the first film, which some can say, you know, can be remembered as a cheesy, you know, basic spy action thriller that started it all, to a 2-parter event like this, you know, with Dead Reckoning. Filled with bigger action and stunt work, fully fledged character arcs. The stories get more complex to convey an emotional attachment to this franchise, and scenes becoming more intense and suspenseful than ever due to the great writing and great music that this movie has. And finally, it's definitely worth seeing it in the theaters, IMAX if you can. I think that's the way to see it. I didn't see it in IMAX, unfortunately, but yes, definitely go see it in the theaters, because seeing the action right there on the big screen, it's all the more worth it. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a 9.6 out of 10 and a high A. Okay, you know what? Screw it. It has to be done. A+. Alright guys, so that's gonna be my time again for another movie review this week. If you enjoyed this, make sure to leave a big like, this out, how about a ton. And if you haven't already, subscribe so you can tune in for more movie related content, mainly movie reviews like this on my channel, Ryan World Movies. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And my big question for you guys is, have you seen Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 yet? And if so, what did you think of it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys for the next one, which I feel like it's going to be a pretty exciting one, given, you know, the trend that's happening currently. So yeah, I think I'll see you guys then, and until next time, Rhinos, roll out, and take care.